Behold! Cat's Eye, an Adarza Kavat specific precept mod that periodically provides a critical chance buff. That 60% critical chance behaves in a rare and powerful way. It's not 60% of your weapon's base critical chance, like it is with most mods. It's just 60% no matter what. Cat's Eye's raw critical chance boost can be used to make pretty much any weapon into a critical weapon while it's active. Specifically, what happens is that you get the 60% crit chance after your normal multiplicative mods like Point Strike or Hydraulic Crosshairs, but Blood Rush actually behaves differently and does scale up the raw critical boost from Cat's Eye, which can get pretty crazy. Finally, multiple instances of Cat's Eye can't stack. You won't get even more critical chance. So this is obviously a powerful mod, and that's enough to want to use it and be interested in Adarza Kavats, but it's interesting to me to think about what situations it's best suited to. You don't get the critical chance all the time, so how do you think of this mod differently because of that? Maybe you want weapon swap speed. Maybe you plan to have one weapon in your loadout that is good only when it has this critical chance buff. The example everyone uses is the Nucor, which has basically no crit chance, but the biggest critical multiplier in the game. So you just run weapon swap speed, or maybe a good melee for quick melee or swapping to, or maybe some exalted powers, or just a Warframe that will be using powers a lot. And while the buff is down, you just don't use your Nucor. You just do something else, and then when it's up, you get your big damage. Interesting way to create a gameplay flow where you're naturally swapping from weapon to weapon when you have the buff. Another way to think about it is that you're adding a multiplier to a build. So you could run a build that is going to be good without it, but then would benefit from having it. One way to think of this would be a weapon that sometimes gives itself critical chance, but not always. An example would be the Mutalist Quanta, which gets flat critical chance itself when it fires through its own bubble. So while Cat's Eye's up, you can just shoot it without the bubble and you still get good crits. And then while it's down, you can still get that crit back by using the bubble. Another example is the Lanka, not a weapon I particularly want to fire without scoping it, but the Lanka's scope bonus gives it flat critical chance. So maybe while the buff is up, you fire it from the hip or something. Again, not something I overly want to do, but a final example is the Buzzlock, which gets flat critical chance while it has its beacon locked onto something. So while Cat's Eye's up, you can use Buzzlock like a normal assault rifle, and while it's down, you can still use it for focus damage on heavier enemies with that beacon. So again, you can use it as just, I'm not going to run a critical chance mod, and I'm just going to count on this crit chance some of the time and deal with it when it's not there. Finally, you can think of it as a way to add a whole new multiplier that the build couldn't have even had before. So maybe you're talking a weapon that does mostly status, and you run a critical damage mod on it, but not a critical chance mod. The weapon is still serviceable for utility, but only really does damage, real damage, once you get the benefit of that critical damage multiplier awakened by that critical chance Cat's Eye buff, which is pretty nice. Again, most builds without crit have plenty of space, so maybe throw crit damage on there. One last note, again, this mod is just good for general damage. If you're just going to use Cat's Eye as a general damage boost, Tek Enhance will increase the uptime dramatically, and I highly recommend that. That's Cat's Eye. I've been Zandy, and you've been tuned to the ModCast.